is the Stop Playing podcast with Sham and Shaka. I'm Sham.
I'm Shaka. What's going on, Sham?
Hey, nothing much. What's going on with you, Shaka?
Nothing much. Ready to get back to business, and the listeners will know what I'm talking about. Maybe at the same time, but maybe we're discussing that. But no, it's been an interesting week. Matter of fact, I'm hoping for a Sham story time, so I'm gonna make mine real quick about how my week has been. I actually didn't even tell you this because I didn't even think about it because I'm doing something very interesting. I got a new phone.
I asked you about it, didn't I?
It arrived today. Now I am not using it yet because when I got it, I had the opportunity to get a case, but I mean, it's a long story. It was part of an upgrade and I didn't because I was going to get a case separately. So the case will be here. It's Friday, the 19th. Case will be here probably either tomorrow or Sunday.
You know, I do the same thing. When I got my last phone, I didn't use my phone until my case arrived.
Exactly. Because just my luck, I'll try to use it and then I'll fall and it'll fall and all that stuff. Interesting thing is, Sham, you've known me for a long time and you know me through these phases. This is definitely by far the longest I've ever had a phone, like the same phone.
Yeah, you and I both got our phones roughly the same week. We both got
maybe it's 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, the Galaxy S7. I think you got the 7. I got the 7 Edge or 7 Plus or whatever they were calling it then. And we both got them literally during the same week and not on purpose. It was totally coincidental. But I actually upgraded since then. So you've had yours a long time.
I've been hanging strong. It probably still will be hanging strong, except now the phone is intermittently blinking and like the screen is just out of control. So it'll happen intermittently. So at this point, one of my boys was like, yo, if you keep looking at that screen and it's acting like that, you're going to get epilepsy. Get it. And I'm like, well, you can't really get it, but I understand what he was
we got that phone in 2017.
I have the date right here. I got it August of 2017.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just thinking about that. I was leaving my one job and going into another. Yep. And I remember I got that phone delivered to the previous job and that was in August 2017.
So fun fact, I used to lose my phones. Listeners, this is for y'all. Sham knows this. I used to lose my phones like nobody's business. Go to the club, lose the phone. Go to dinner, lose the phone.
And your debit card used to do this.
Phone and debit card, like clockwork. One person we're about to talk about in a second, I went to his birthday when we went tubing, lost phone in the water. That kind of thing. So people, it used to be a running joke when if I misplaced the phone like in the room, they'd be like, you lost your phone again? And then I find it, they'd be like, yo, you really had this phone for a while. And like I said, I would have kept it. So now, Sham, I've gotten the S20. I didn't get the 21 because, I got the upgrade and I could have upgraded to the 21, but the terms weren't as good as the 20. And I really don't see a difference. 21 just came out.
I think one of them, you don't even have the SD card slot anymore. I think the 21, they took
probably the 21, I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which I actually like that. But so we'll see. As we were just talking, so I'm not using it. Like I said, once the case gets here, but it's charging. I had bought one of those wireless chargers last year for my current phone, but the charger was too powerful for that because the phone was too old. So for some reason, I didn't throw it away. And now I can use it. And it's sitting right there right now charging. But yeah, this S7 wasn't built for that charger.
No, it's a whole different. It's a C.
Exactly.
It's a USB-C or something like that now.
Correct.
Yeah. So, no more micro.
Yep. So probably by Sunday, I'll transfer all the data over, and that'll be cool. And then the other thing this week, work has been going great. They actually sent us a Black Lives Matter thing infused with the company logo. So that was awesome. So
can't wear it anywhere though. You're stuck in your house wearing the Black Lives.
Stuff. We'll talk about it at the end of the news segment, but stuff's starting to maybe get a little better. So we'll see. And then, finally, on a more somber note, but just to kind of book in what we talked about a couple episodes ago, the funeral for Dr. Nichols was today. It was in Huntsville. We talked about his passing a couple weeks ago. It was spectacular. And Sham, I know you haven't seen it yet, but it is on video. I watched it via stream, and it was very good. And it was a great opportunity. It was on YouTube, and they did it in connection with the church, so we were able to go in the chat and talk to each other, the people who weren't there, and it was just an awesome thing. So I was able to kind of see my friend off. So that was awesome. Somber, but awesome. And that happened today. So that's how my week's been.
Great.
Ups, downs, and in betweens.
Awesome.
Yeah. Sam story time? No?
I mean, you done told all the stories.
Those are Sam stories, though. I wasn't wronged in any of these stories.
I haven't been wronged.
Have a letter writing situation opportunity.
I have not been wronged this week. Got an eye exam on Monday. That's news. My vision's getting better. It's going backwards. So
that's awesome.
Hey, sure. I'll take it.
Yeah.
It was interesting. So I got an email from Amazon inviting me to join an Amazon shopping panel.
Okay.
So I'm like looking at this and I'm like, huh? So I said, maybe it's fake, because you get like random emails. And actually I Googled it to see if it was an actual thing. So I was like, this is a thing. So I clicked the link or whatever. So what it is you click the link, you download the app, and you just scan receipts. That's it. You go to the restaurant, scan a receipt. You even got receipts in your email it to the panel. I went to Burger King the other day, scan that receipt. Scan 10 receipts. They give you $10 to use towards your purchase on Amazon.com. So I was like, oh, okay. So I had a bunch of receipts on my counter that I was going to scan and throw away anyway in another app. So let me just go ahead and scan these receipts. After about 20 minutes, I had $10 to spend on Amazon.com. So I was like, oh, I can get with this.
So what's the referral program look like for you? If you refer, I don't know, your podcast partner on this, because this is a nice little hustle.
I can't refer anybody. You have to get the invite directly from Amazon.
Exclusive.
So they're just, I guess, picking random Amazon customers and inviting them.
It's like secret shopping with steroids. I like it. Secret shopping for the digital age.
Yep.
That's awesome.
So I'm just going to keep adding up my little $10 every time I get to it and see what I can get on Amazon.
Nice.
Cheers.
And I was thinking about booking in this on another story, but I might as well just say it now. That way I don't have to. I am taking one very important family member, but a few to get a vaccine next week as well. So I'm starting to get appointments for that. So I'm excited
about that for you.
I'm excited. Yes.
And for your family member.
Yes. And so good stuff. I'm happy about the shopping thing, though. That's a good little opportunity.
Hey, it was great. It was in my email. I want to say Wednesday.
I might have to coordinate some purchases through you, and then we could do a little. Well, maybe we shouldn't talk about it on the program. All right.
Or maybe you got an email. Just go check it.
Oh, trust me, I've checked it. I get a lot of stuff from Amazon because the way my Amazon addiction is set up, I would have noticed that. So that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, hey, okay, Sam hasn't been wrong this week. Then you should be ready to get into the show.
I am. Let's go.
Tell the people where they can find us.
All right, everybody. If you're listening, thank you. Tell a friend. Make sure they go to www.stopplayingpodcast.com. Scroll all the way to the bottom of our page, and you can see all the platforms we're available on, most notably Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. You can also connect with us on Facebook and Instagram at the Stop Playing Podcast, at Twitter at stop_playing pod, and visit us on YouTube at the Stop Playing Podcast channel.
Yeah, and the channel has been a little bit more active. You guys have been really responding to a lot of stories and ads. We appreciate all of them. So thank you. Keep doing that. And we're going to ramp up some of the ads, especially, some of the political ones. No, I'm just joking. All right.
So let's get into these news stories.
Yeah. So look, we took a little break from news last week, and you guys will understand that. So we're not obviously trying to catch up everything that happened in the last couple of weeks. However, there's some important stuff that needs to be covered. The impeachment ended, as we all knew it would, with an acquittal.
Right.
So
the Senate is never going to convict anyone.
Never.
Let's be clear.
So 57 to 43 was the final tally. They needed 10 more Republicans to come over. They wouldn't do it. The only intrigue at the end of the trial so to speak, was the House member, and I forget her name now, who Sham testified about the phone call, or was prepared to, and then they just basically submitted her statement about the phone call that House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy made to 45 while the riot was unfolding. This phone call is spectacular. This is basically everything you expect from 45. Basically, she says she was standing right next to him, and then Kevin McCarthy has since told people about the call. He says, look, he calls 45, and he's like, hey, listen, like, these people are outside, they're breaking in, they're rioting, like, you need to call them off. 45 stress response. That's Antifa. Out the gate. He says, no, they're not Antifa. These are your people. I mean, dude, they have Trump flags and Trump hats. Stop it.
All over the place.
I mean, they've been playing this word quote all week. He said, well, Kevin, I guess they're just more upset about the election than you are.
Of course.
I just like how he said his name, like he's his father or something.
Well, Kevin.
So then that was my second favorite part. My favorite part, since Kevin McCarthy's life was in danger, and at this point, I guess he feels no need to kiss ass anymore. He said, and I quote, who the fuck do you think you're talking to? Now, Sham, my only problem is they won't give us any more quotes after this in terms of how that conversation ended. And I really need to know that. But they showed enough of that part. So the whole point of this lady coming out and talking about this conversation was to show what 45's state of mind was, and that he didn't really care what was happening, and to try to bolster the case that, yeah, he incited it, because when it would start happening, he wasn't trying to stop it. At first, they were going to use that to then start the floodgate of calling witnesses in who may have been around him or may have been around the other people. But then it became a big fight. So they just decided, let her put her statement on the record. No witnesses. Let's end the trial. That's what they did. So he's skating again.
Look, here's my thing about this. I promise that if the Senate committee was a blind vote, he would have been convicted. Like, nobody wants to show their hand.
Correct.
And it needs to be a secret vote. Like, why are we in any other jury or trial situation in life? You don't know who said guilty or not guilty unless, you know, they do it afterwards. Like, juries go in a room, they come out, and then one juror tells everybody what the determination was.
The verdict, yeah. Look, you can speak to this better than me. While I agree in this situation it would have been useful, I think because we're talking about a government official and the removal of that government official by other government officials, it has to be on the record, because it could go the other way. Like, let's say they wanted to impeach Obama for some reason, some made up reason, and people wanted to cast, you know, a secret ballot on that. We damn sure want to know who voted for what, especially if we didn't feel it was just. But I agree with you in spirit, in the sense that these senators are so cowardly that they can't face. See, the real problem is they can't stomach the possibility that their vote be put on the record, and then they have to go home and explain that to his crazy supporters. And it's one of those things like, right is right, wrong is wrong. You're just scared for your political career. And so you can't see past that. So I don't want to legislate around your cowardice. You just need to grow a set, and, you know, like some of these other people. But, you know, again, it was the outcome we expected. There are no profiles in courage in politics, especially American politics. As we will see in one of the other stories, American politics at this point, I mean, they don't serve the people at all. And we knew that. But man, with the coronavirus and now this, and then some of the other stuff that's happened this week, it brings home that it leads to suffering for the people. So, but he skated. So that's that. So he's down in Mar-a-Lago. People, the same Kevin McCarthy who cussed him out that day because his life was in danger, took a trip down there because he wants a list of 45 donors, because he wants to use them to try to get back the House majority. So he went down there and basically like bit the knee to him, in Game of Thrones speak. So that was that. Now, some news. Sham, I wouldn't call this an in memoriam in the sense of, you know, let's pay a big tribute and what have you.
Yeah, I would not pay a tribute to this thing.
Right. So this isn't going to be a tribute, but this needs to be mentioned because, well, look, Rush Limbaugh passed away earlier this week.
Yeah, let's just cut to the chase. He passed away.
and here's the cut to the chase of Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh was a complete racist, misogynist, ridiculous, just human being. Now, he had people who love him, so I'm not going to be disrespectful to his family. Like, it is what it is. I'm sure they're suffering. That being said, the only significant thing that I take from Rush Limbaugh, and I take joy in the fact that he wouldn't want me to have it, by his expansion of conservative talk and the medium of talk radio, that inadvertently helped to open doors. He wasn't the only person, because there are people like Kathy Hughes, who I would look to, who would reach down to people like us. He opened the doors to strengthen the power of talk radio, which in turn is sort of, for lack of a better word, in my opinion, the grandfather of like podcasting. You know what I'm saying? And he was one of the first people I understood to be able to conduct a show from his house, which of course is important to us. That being said, he had all this power and used it for all the wrong purposes. He was a horrible human being. Horrible.
Yeah, I'm appreciative of the fact that we know his rhetoric can no longer be spread.
Be spewed. And the only other significant thing about his passing, forget his life in general, is like everything else when people pass, especially conservatives, but they like them anyway, but you're going to try to like lionize him just because he's dead and try to shame people for reminding the world that he was a trash human being? Oh, you can't talk about him because I can't? Because he put his stuff out on the air every day. His radio show was the steroid version of 45's tweets every day. That's where 45, 45 was like he was regardless. But the point being,
45 had nothing on Rush Limbaugh. Let's be
exactly clear. That's that. Yeah, it was those tweets on steroids for hours a day. So, but that's that. It really is more like, stop trying to be nice just because the man's dead. Like, that makes him no less a racist and no less a misogynist either.
Did you ever go back and listen to when he was on The Breakfast Club?
I did not.
You should. I will. If you want to, you should go back and listen to that.
I think that's awesome. They had him on. I would love to hear him and Charlamagne.
Well, because they were both on iHeartRadio, and so they thought it would be a good idea to have them mash up and just each speak about their side. Mm-hmm. But Charlamagne was on his neck, and it was
actually. Yeah, that's awesome. I will listen to it. Now, I will say this, because I wanted to move on, but I think it should be said since this is a connection for both of us. Here's the one thing I do remember, and it's awful. When ESPN thought it would be a good idea to put him on Countdown. And you know about that, because what soured that whole situation? His very first episode on the damn show, Donovan McNabb, there's a discussion about him, and he immediately turns it to race and immediately turns it to affirmative action, and it blows up for the whole week. If we had been podcasting at that point, we would have led the show with that. It was that big at that time.
Mm-hmm.
What were your thoughts when that happened?
The same thing I think now. He was a trash person.
Trash. And the only thing I took from that,
and Donovan McNabb did not deserve that
at all.
I don't care what your feelings are about him. He did not deserve that.
And I remember when people were trying to go after Tom Jackson, quote unquote, for not saying anything. It's like, yo, Tom Jackson can't control that the producers at ESPN thought it'd be a good idea to let this trash human being on set. And he certainly couldn't. I'll put it this way. Of course, he couldn't be surprised that he said it, but he couldn't anticipate that he would go in there and immediately be trashed. And what do y'all want Tom Jackson to do? Lose his job and go and punch him in the face?
That was on the producers. The producers were listening just like Tom Jackson was. They could have interjected at any time.
Thank you. And I remember James Brown, then we'll move on. James Brown, who was on Fox at the time, took time out of their show the next week and took a whole segment just to defend Tom Jackson. It was like, don't go after my colleague on ESPN for the behavior of basically a trash individual. And I had already liked James Brown before that. I liked him a ton more after that. And if I ever meet him, I will tell him, I've always liked you, DC, but thank you for sticking up to him when trash human being was involved. That's all the time I want to spend on that trash. Personally, I apologize if we spent even more than we should have.
We did, but it's okay.
It's okay. All right. Look, some general news. There's a wrap up. Sham. I really want to get your thoughts on this. This one I purposely didn't really go into it. Central Park Karen. We have a resolution, so to speak. Charges dropped. Your thoughts? You knew about this story. What are your thoughts here?
I'm not surprised.
Now, were you able to see why her charges were dropped?
No, enlighten me.
So her charges were dropped because she attended She attended 5 sessions of therapy about racial understanding, essentially. There's like a program, whatever. Mm-hmm. So she attended those 5 sessions, went back to court. Prosecutor was like, we're satisfied. Of course, Christian, the gentleman who, the black guy, he had never wanted anything pursued in the first place. So the judge was like, okay, well, you went to these 5 classes about how not to be racist. And I know I'm oversimplifying that, but that's what it sounds like. And we're going to drop these. Now, again, I'll reiterate, I was not interested in seeing this lady go to jail for, even months or years or whatever. But the charges being dropped means that it won't be on her record because she went to these classes.
I don't think that anybody will forget what she did. I think
nobody will forget, but I just want it on the record. I need things documented. I'm sorry. So that's my only. If they kept on the record and made her pay a fine, I'd be cool.
So she basically got a speeding ticket, went to the class to get her points reduced, and that's that. That's the same thing they do with people who get speeding tickets.
Exactly. And that shows you how much they care about racism. So moving on. That's the perfect analogy.
But that stuff going with the accountant and his side chick and her being the side chick, all that stuff is still going on. So
oh yeah. Oh, listen, I hope she's not in love with him anymore because that man lives his best life. So yeah, she'll suffer every day behind that. Yeah, she don't got to go to jail. She's at her own mental prison with that dude.
Exactly.
Anyway,
this past week,
yes,
the weather has been pretty bad. Like the past couple of weeks, it snowed, and we're used to that here. It snows. Yeah. Well, actually, Maryland and DC, we haven't had rough snows, and I feel like we get a bad snow every 5 years or something like that. So it's old hat for us to be getting snow, but not in the South and the Midwest. Yeah. There was a crazy winter storm in Texas and some blackouts.
Correct. And rolling blackouts. This situation is awful on so many levels. On the macro level, when we're talking about, the weather, basically, this is climate change, like on steroids affecting these people. And I'm not big into science in the sense of understanding it, but I got a very broken down understanding. It's ironic when we would talk about one of my favorite segments ever, when you were talking about the Titanic reboot and all that, and I was talking about how the Titanic could sail back and forth at this point. That's actually true, and it's scary. That was great. I need to listen to that just to cheer myself up. How mad I was, but anyway, this is what I need to be mad about right now. The whole point of that is that the polar vortex, and I know I'm screwing stuff up, but because of basically greenhouse gases, the kind of ring that keeps the cold air around the poles has been melting. So now all the cold air that normally is up there is coming further and further down. And we're getting more and more of these cases every winter where we get extreme temperatures further south because we've been burning up basically the protective wall around the North Pole. So that's a very simple explanation, but it made sense to me.
I'll take it.
So this happened this year in the South and Southwest, especially Texas. And this is the problem. I did not know this until this week. Texas operates on its own grid, its own electrical power grid. Unlike the rest of the entire country, where we have, every state has their own kind of individual version of it, but then everyone coordinates specifically for the reason if there's an emergency and there's a power shortage in one state, they can share. Texas in 2000, late 90s, 2000, we talked about Ken Lay last week by accident. Kenneth Lay, the Enron guy, him and Enron, who operated in Texas, wanted Texas to be energy independent. They wanted no regulation from the government. Them and companies like them figured it could be the wild, wild west with pricing. They could go out, charge what they wanted to customers, compete, operate within their own self. So they basically were like, look, Texas has enough energy. We have oil, we have gas, we have all this stuff. We can operate on our own. We don't need the government. So all we need to do is set up our own little system and operate like we want. This was all based on money. This is the root of this greed.
Isn't that the root of everything?
Absolutely. So then the problem further went on because they set up the Energy Reliable Council of Texas, ERCOT, which is not reliable at all. And they basically said, okay, we're going to create this organization that's going to quote unquote regulate us, when really somebody said it best. They're an air traffic controller for power companies. All they do is say, hey, you know what? You guys, if you guys, Company A, you want to set up in Dallas, that's great. Company B, okay, we might have too many people in Dallas. You can set up there if you want, but go ahead and set up in Houston and then compete with each other. And basically, there were so many companies competing that they all drove their pricing into the ground, so they couldn't make profit. So because they couldn't make that much profit, they started cutting corners on expenses like, I don't know, power reserves and gas lines. So then what they did was they said, okay, well, we're not going to need excess power anyway. Really, all we need power for is when it gets hot in the summer and people need air conditioning. So we're going to basically ramp up for that. And then basically after that, in the wintertime, it's mild here. So people don't need to use power like that just for lights and stuff. So we're not going to prepare for any eventuality of that because that costs money that we don't have or not willing to spend. And we don't have a government that's going to force us to have reserves. Champ, casinos have reserves for money. Like you can't go in a casino. We learned this on Ocean's 11. If you go in a casino, they have to have enough money to pay everybody if everybody won that night, period. Like that's just how stuff like this works. But apparently electricity and power doesn't work like that in Texas. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do anything. You can just run it the way you want. And we're talking about a natural resource. They're treating this like it's cable and it's like a luxury. And basically, this is why people in Texas right now, less than it was at the beginning of the week, they had to do rolling blackouts and they basically had to deprive people of power when the temperature, forget snow, the temperature was like 2 degrees, negative degrees. People were freezing to death. People were trying to start cars in their garages and died from carbon monoxide because they couldn't have any heat. One grandmother burnt her house down trying to light a fire from the fireplace for her and her grandkids, burnt her and her grandkids to death. And people on the internet were taking pictures of the skylines of like Dallas and Houston. They all lit up, but all the residents around it can't get any power. They're like, why is the power going there and not here? This is what our country is. Last thing I'll say on this rant. Remember when we were talking on the New Year's episode about American mediocrity and how unexceptional it is? And what the coronavirus proved what we already knew. The governments, when there's a crisis, America's at a point now where we can't put one foot in front of the other to give the citizens basic stuff in a crisis because we've left all kinds of stuff unattended out of greed. And no one regulates anything. So if you lived in Texas, you probably thought this whole time, oh, you know what? I mean, the government will make sure that at least I have energy, like power when I need it, water when I need it. They can't even get clean water. So that's what we're at. Texas is a microcosm of America, in that sense. So that's what's been happening this week. So now they can't get clean water because the power plants tapped out. So now they have to boil their water. That's their new thing. As of today. Yep.
Texas has always wanted to operate as if they're their own country. So This is what happens.
This is what happens, but it's unfortunate because you have half of the people who wouldn't, if you were to put this vote to half of the people, they would say, this makes no sense. Like we need to merge with the rest of the country, but they don't control the vote, but they still have to suffer the consequences. So, and speaking of vote, who's their senator? One Mr. Ted Cruz. Now, Sham, this is the story, part of the story that you knew this week, correct?
That's the only part of the story I knew, besides the fact that folks got snow in Texas.
Lay out to me what one Mr. Ted Cruz decided would be a good idea this week.
Your man's decided, heck, I'm getting out of here. I'm going to Cancun. And he got outed because folks, he was in coach. He must have taken the Southwest flight, it looked like.
Wow. Actually, it did look like that. It
did look like it because they have direct flights to Cancun. I think they're one of the few airlines that do, actually.
And plus I saw the seating and stuff. It looked like this. Yeah.
And so, regular folk like me and you caught him and snapped photos and they put it on social media. And he was getting on a flight to Cancun in the middle of one of the worst storms Texas has ever seen, and the blackouts and all of that, living his best life.
So a couple of pieces of trash behavior. Everything you just said. Then when questioned about it, because once those pictures start coming out, he didn't say anything at first, but then he knew there was no way out of it. So then he tried to put it on his daughters. His daughters are 12 and 10 years old. This is what kind of trash human being Ted Cruz is. He says, well, my power went out, I think it was Monday night, Tuesday morning maybe. He said, my daughters came to me because they don't have school this week, and it was their idea to go to Cancun, and I wanted to be a good dad, so I decided to pack up and take them. Okay. Your daughters are 12 and 10 years old. So what are you telling me? You're telling me your 12 and 10-year-old daughter came to you and said, let's fly to Cancun. You picked up what you were doing that day and decided to do it. Number one. Number two, you're trying to escape responsibility by throwing your daughters under the bus. Your daughters are children. Number three, you're lying because you're making it sound like you just wanted to escort them down there, which you could have just let them go with their mother. See, I wouldn't have had a problem if Ted Cruz had been like, yo, I'm gonna send my family. Okay.
Yeah, you a whole senator.
Yeah.
That's your state going through a crisis. But you felt like you needed to accompany your children to Cancun when your wife could have just taken them.
Correct. Number four, you're lying some more because if you look at your carry-on for 2 seconds, you realize you packed that thing like you were going to be gone for 2 weeks. You weren't escorting and coming back. You were gone for it. And then, man, I got 65. It's already proven your itinerary said you would come back on Saturday. You were going on vacation, Slim. You know what I'm saying? And finally, Ted Cruz, y'all have been to that hotel before, and apparently it was the Ritz in Cancun. This was a pre-planned trip. So it had nothing to do with this. I
drove by there when I was in Cancun.
Yeah, apparently it's very nice. So next time, drive, park, and go in. For what I've heard, it's very nice. Yeah, so you're lying all over the place. So then you decide, Sham, the man decides to come back, or knows he has to come back. Puts it on his way down there. He had a regular gray mask on, same mask he'd been running around with. Decides to put on a mask with the Texas flag on it on the way back. He's such a trash human being. And they had people. I don't know if you saw. They had people waiting for him at the airport with signs, and people waiting outside his house with signs. So his family's still down there. Oh, and one more trash thing, Sam, which I don't know if you saw, but you would appreciate this. On the way back, he definitely didn't fly. Well, he might have, but he tried to upgrade himself to business class. Apparently, so they saw the whole manifest. Only tried to upgrade himself. Every article makes a point to say he was on the list for standby. His wife was not.
Let's be clear. Business class on Southwest just means you get on the plane faster than anybody
Understood.
else. Right.
You're 1A instead of like whatever. But still.
What are you doing?
Hey, Sharon, Ted Cruz the type. It don't snow in Texas that often, but he cleaned in his car and he go to work. Apparently.
He's such trash.
He's trash. He's a trash human being. He's awful. And between him and ex-governor Rick Perry, you know what Rick Perry said? And then we wrap this segment up. Rick Perry said when challenged about Texas's whole structure, he said, to bolster your point about how they feel about independence, he said, well, Texans are more than willing to go 3 days or more without power if it means that we don't have to worry about federal interference.
No, how you gonna speak for Texans? Texans is sitting in the house cold and can't watch TV.
Freezing to death. People will die. And you're gonna say on the fourth day, oh, we don't want no help. That means y'all gonna try to tell us what to do. Oh no, we'll just freeze to death. And by the way, you're probably not freezing to death, personally. Like, again, trash behavior. And honestly, it's scary because our infrastructure is like, Sham, you know what it made me think? I said, okay, I didn't know this about Texas. I bet you there's stuff like this in every state of America for some kind of different thing where it's like, if somebody doesn't come to work one day or if something happens one day, we have a problem that's so big that it will take us back to the 18th century in 2 seconds. Like if you're living in Texas right now without power, you're thinking like, yo, how is this 2021? And it's like that because yes, natural disasters you can't control, but you can control your preparedness for it. America's not prepared for anything. We weren't prepared for the virus. We weren't prepared for this. Period. All right. Because man, I'll give myself a stroke with no heart attack.
And speaking of the virus, we got some good news. Good pandemic news.
Yeah,
so that sounds crazy. Good pandemic news.
I mean, ain't no other way to put it. We're in a pandemic, and it's good news doing it. Look. I will say this sounds crazy. For the first time in months, we had less than 100,000 new cases. Like this was maybe Thursday or Friday. Oh, I'm sorry, today is Friday. This was like Tuesday, Wednesday. So we're in less than 100,000 cases. We've been under 3,000 deaths a day. Still too many deaths. It's like 2,200 or something like that. So we are still adding cases and adding mortality, but at a slower rate, and it's going down than what it was before. A combination of things, obviously, it's only so long it can grow. More people have it, whatever. The vaccine is starting to get out more. That's also a good sign. And quite frankly, I mean, for other reasons, people are not being as reckless. Stuff is closing, stuff like that. So it looks like maybe we're turning the corner. But we'll see. But it's not continuing to rise like it was. And I thought that was good. I've been coming on here to harbinger doom and gloom, thinking it was, good to, well, not good, but just appropriate to go in here and say bad news all the time. So I wanted to at least end on some good news. And hopefully we continue. But unless you have any other news, that's all political and world news we got for tape. We got a lot of good entertainment stuff as usual.
Sure.
I think we do. I think we got a lot to chew on, actually. What are you watching?
So actually, I just started watching a new show called The Equalizer. Have you checked it out?
With Queen Latifah. I have not, and I have it chilling in my DVR right now, Sham. Did you watch the first one right after the Super Bowl?
Yes, I recorded it. So I recorded the Super Bowl and then I recorded it and I watched it like the next day. So,
okay.
I definitely started from the beginning. So this is the third incarnation of The Equalizer. First, there was the series that was, that starred the British actor in the 80s. I used to watch that with my grandmother and great grandmother. So I do remember, we used to watch that when I was little. And then there's the Denzel Washington movie version.
Right. Awesome.
2 movies. And then now there's the Queen Latifah version. I like that they've done it with a woman this time. Yeah. Because girl power. And I like Queen Latifah. And I think the angle that they're taking, same plot, same kind of vigilante justice, same thing. But I do like, the angle that they're taking, the female empowerment role. And so far she's been helping women, so, but I definitely like the show. I wasn't as fired up about it after the pilot as a lot of people. Like, I think this, I have an app on my phone called TV Time. And so it keeps track of all the shows that I watch and reminds me of premiere dates and stuff. But after you watch the episode, you can say you watched it. And then there's like all these comments or whatever. So it's kind of like a social media type thing.
Yep.
And then I was reading the comments and a lot of people were very fired up about it. I was just kind of like, on the pilot. But the second episode really kind of pulled me in. So I was very happy about that. 2 other new shows I watched this week. Young Rock.
Oh, okay. How's that?
It's interesting to see The Rock in 4 phases of his life. So there's the small rock, there's the grade school rock, there's the college rock, and then there's current rock. The casting is brilliant, I think, because the father and mother look exactly like his parents. And
nice.
Like they did. Learned a lot about Rocky Maivia. His father is kind of crazy.
Okay.
He's going to have an interesting character development. But I think, again, I wasn't as fired up about the pilot as a lot of people were. They thought, oh my gosh, this is great. It's amazing. It was a little slow for me, but I see the potential. Sure. And Kenan, which aired right after that. Mm-hmm. Kenan Thompson has a show with Don Johnson. That pilot was trash.
Wow.
I mean, the jokes were a little kind of lukewarm. The flow of them was kind of slow. It was a lot of dead space. Like, it's interesting when you have a show like that, you need sometimes that studio audience. And even if you don't have it, can you just play a laugh track or something?
Yeah, just to kind of fill that void. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I've never looked at Kenan like he was the most hilarious person alive in the first place. Like, I think he has a niche and he does that niche well. But I think with this show, they need to pull something from somewhere. I'm pulling for him though. But
I could see him as a good straight guy. You know, I think it's no secret. I like Jerry Seinfeld a lot. And one of the reasons I like Jerry Seinfeld is because I feel like early on in his career, you could tell through his stand-up and through his show, he understood his lane. He knew that, okay, I have a very strategic approach to comedy. I'm kind of a straight man and I just go out and make observations and stuff. And then what he did with his show was he understood that, okay, I can't just like do that on the show. I have to surround myself with seasoned people and funny people. And then the synergy we play off will then lead to a bigger comedic result. So he approached comedy like a science, you know. And so I think with Kenan, if you see him on Saturday SNL and those skits, a lot of times he plays the straight guy and somebody else is doing something crazy. And it works. He's good at that. And I think if you're going to do a show, I don't know what Don Johnson's role in it. And to your point, it just seems like maybe they need to figure out, maybe bring in some other characters and figure something out. I think it can work if he takes that approach. Like, look, I have a lane. I don't need to jump out here and be extra or nothing like that. And I'm not saying that's what he's doing, but I'm just saying that's the only way I see a show working. I wanted to go back to a couple. I just didn't want to interrupt you. For Queen Latifah, I'm extremely excited about that only because I feel like I hadn't seen her in a while in general. Mm-hmm. And then when I saw her in the previews, I was like, man, she's really looks really comfortable in this role. Mm-hmm. And it looks like they've written this very well for her.
Oh, she's a badass.
Yeah. And I'm like, age-wise, she has to be what, 50?
She's 50. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I was like, well, she certainly, I mean, not that 50 is like old or anything, but the point being, she just seems to have sort of a exuberance that I was like, all right, I'm with this. So I'm excited about that.
The age is appropriate for the show.
Yeah. Because
every Equalizer character has been older. A
little bit older, correct.
And they've been like a retired, agent of some sort. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's appropriate that she's 50.
But I thought she didn't come off as old. She came off as like seasoned. You know what I'm saying?
And that's the role. Good. It's a seasoned person.
And then the other observation I wanted to make about The Rock is that, I'm very interested to see what happens because even as recently as this week, he's still entertaining thoughts about running for president.
And the pilot of that show addresses that.
It addresses it? Okay. Because I'm like, a pilot that's however you want to say it, like a bio, that's an interesting thing to do if you're entertaining running for president. So we'll see. That's interesting. And the fact that you told me they addressed that, okay. So he's thought about that, clearly.
Mm-hmm. It's a big part of the show.
Yeah. He's a very thoughtful person, actually. So I don't see him jumping into anything like that. Excited.
So I was watching Nightly Pop, which is like a e-news, like daily thing. They do like one in the morning and then they do one at night. Mm-hmm. And they brought up a video that had been going around the internet about a girl who said her boyfriend cheated on her by using an urn. So they had an urn in the house. And when he would bring women home, they would be like, oh, what's that? And they'd be like, oh, yeah, that was my girlfriend. Oh, that was my wife. She passed away.
I was like, where is this going? Yeah, wow.
So the girlfriend had, she hadn't really thought of it at first. She's like, why is there an urn in our house? Like, it was just sitting there. But I guess finally she found out that the reason why this just was an elaborate scheme to be able to bring women home.
Sympathy.
And create that sympathy and say, oh yeah. And that would also explain the reason why there was pictures of her in the house and all that kind of stuff. So he was just like, yeah, my wife died. And, wow. I said, yo,
he put some thought into that. He put some thought into that.
What do you think about that? That's elaborate.
I'm putting him in the category of, I want to be in the room when you came up with that. Yes. And lay it out for me, your thought process. Describe it to me.
I was like, oh, you wanted to cheat real bad. Just go meet up in random places like regular cheaters. Like, why you got to earn in your house?
I mean, he covered all those bases. Yo, when they come in here and see the pictures, I gotta have a good reason why. Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, forget like not bringing them home in the first place.
Right.
But, okay. Yeah.
Like, hey. That's the cheap way. You ain't got to buy hotel rooms.
Exactly. Nah, he covered all his little angles. Like I said, if I need a project manager or something different than this, I'll at least test his brain out. Like, use these powers for good, Slum. That's awesome. Real quick, some things I'm watching. I'm still watching Batwoman. I like it. The new Batwoman, season 2. I like it.
I'm still not there yet.
Yeah, I know. So I won't say anything about it. Cobra Kai, I'm in the middle of season 3. So blazed through 2, middle of 3, probably got about 4 or 5 episodes ago. All I'm gonna say is this: you've given me your thoughts on the show in general. I believe you say you're more of a fan of season 2 than 3 up to this point. I like 3 up to this point, but I think they're doing some risky stuff, and it better pay off. I'm looking for certain payoffs, and if they're not produced, I can see myself getting in your camp, because they're jumping out there quite a bit on some things and bringing up some stuff that I'm like, oh, okay, we're going there. Okay, then I want the payoff that this should produce. Otherwise, let's not do it. But up so far, I'm like, in general, I like Johnny Lawrence. I like him, man. They've done a good job.
If you hated him in the original movie, you really flip. Because he has now become like a very lovable character.
They've done a good job. And he still does his stuff, and he's funny, and it's just great. And then finally, Sham, this isn't more of a specific show. So you've heard me reference our D channel like a ton of times.
You and my sister.
Yeah. So ask your sister this too, because their advertising worked on me completely. So you watch the ID channel, and they run ads all the time doing commercials. And they basically say, look, the ID channel is part of like a network all under Discovery Plus. So if you want to watch these shows, whatever you want, you can watch this, you can watch Property Brothers, you can watch, I thought about you can watch all Food Network, all this stuff. Just get Discovery Plus for like $5 a month. And I was sitting there, the first time I saw the article, I was like, don't do it. I was like, don't do it. Second one, I was like, oh, I'm doing this. So I went ahead and jumped into
Discovery Plus.
There's no question.
I cannot believe you did that.
$5 a month, and share. I'm as happy as a lark.
And that being said, I'm gonna need you to share your password.
I was about to say, I don't even know if they allow it, because I'll try. But my point is, everything. They're like, we have everything you want. Like, stop.
And you know why I'm mad about that? Because, and I don't blame them, because they're like, hey, everybody else is doing it. Why can't we make money off of that? But they already had it. So if you downloaded any of their apps, like for instance, I've discussed it on the show. I watch a lot of HGTV.
Exactly.
So I had the HGTV app, but on that app, you could still watch like Food Network. You can watch all the other channels on the HGTV app, which was free.
Yeah.
And so I felt like I already had that. So now they've done this Discovery Plus, and they're making you pay for it. But they also have added exclusive shows that you can't watch anywhere. Like they moved Property Brothers Forever Home to there, and because Property Brothers got 187 different shows, so they moved some of them onto Discovery Plus. But
and they got all that stuff, so they are ready to rock and roll. One thing I'm looking forward to watching and then we'll talk about something. I did not watch the Crocodile Hunter, Steve Irwin show. I didn't watch it. I mean, but I knew who he was and whatever. So now what they've been advertising a lot is that his family has been trying to basically keep the, reserve or whatever they had going. And the crux of the show, how they're advertising it, is they were trying to basically reopen when the pandemic hit. So it's showing the whole journey of them trying to open this place that, is, a zoo, for lack of a better word. And it shows their challenges in doing that. And I don't know, they're advertising it to the point where it's I'm gonna watch that. Probably because I watched Tiger King, which is the complete opposite, evil end of that spectrum. But at minimum, it did show and they did a really good job of selling it. Look, man, he's dead, but he will want us to keep this alive. And we got this pandemic. We don't know what we're going to do. And man, his son looks just like him. It's people's sons look like them. I get it. But it's that's his son. There's no question. So that I'm looking forward to watching that. I may only watch a few episodes, but I like that.
So to something we are both watching. So I finally got caught up on WandaVision.
Yeah.
And I'm so caught up that I'm now ahead of you. So
you laughed me today.
We won't talk about today's episode, today being Friday.
Friday 19th. I'm not caught up on that one, but we have enough meat on this bone where I think we could talk.
Definitely. So things that I like. I didn't get it at first, but after I got to episode 3, I realized what they were doing as far as the decades, which I thought was super cool. I do like the whole tongue-in-cheek comedy and stuff that they were doing in the beginning. I want to say probably the first 3 episodes. Yeah. They were doing the kind of Lucy, Ricky kind of humor and stuff. I thought was super cute. So when we get to episodes 3 and 4, episode 3 is when she gave birth to the twins, which I thought was so random. She was pregnant for a day.
Right.
And then promptly kicked Monica Rambeau right out of Westview.
Correct.
So, and the premise of the show is that pretty much Wanda and Vision are living this happy life, and they're in a small town, and they're just living like normal people, except for the fact that they both have powers and they're both Avengers. Right. And then we discover later on that this is actually not a real thing that's going on. It's actually only real in Wanda's mind,
right?
In a town that she's created, in people's brains that she has pretty much taken over, and everybody else outside of that town can see it on TV as a television show called WandaVision. We meet the girl from the Thor movies that was Jane's assistant, played by Kat Dennings. I can't remember her name on the show.
Yeah, I forget her name.
Darcy. Dr. Darcy.
Okay.
Became a doctor since the second Thor movie.
Yeah.
So good for her. Monica Rambeau, who is the daughter of Captain Rambeau that was in Captain Marvel. So when you think about it, that movie was in 1995. So and she was probably 7 or 8 then. So you fast forward to now, which is 2021 or maybe even 2020 in that show. But either way, she's an adult.
Right.
And she is now a captain and is an agent for SWORD, which is something that her mother created.
Right.
She got lost in a blip, and during that blip, her mother passed away. And
I think they did a good job of kind of speed explaining that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A lot of people got lost in that blip, by the way, and they were explaining to people who got lost in it. Also, the FBI agent, played by Randall Park, who was in the Ant-Man movies. He has teamed up with Monica Rambeau and Darcy to kind of figure out this whole WandaVision thing and try to, figure out what's going on with Vision. So Vision figures out, I want to say in episode 4, that something ain't right.
Yes.
On the outside world, he's dead because we all saw him die we know he died before the blip during the Infinity War. Mm-hmm. But in WandaVision, she somehow grabbed his body from the lab that they had it in. Why they still had it, I don't know.
Yeah, probably studying it. I mean, I think
they did mention that in like episode 5.
I can buy that.
And she stole it. And then because she was so lonely and lost, she wanted to rebuild that love and connection. And so now they're a family.
Yeah.
Which it took a while for us to realize that all of that was going on. And I'm glad that Disney kind of took us there finally. And now Vision is trying to figure out, he tried to leave in the last episode.
Yeah, no, I was serious. He was I liked what they did with Vision. So okay. Let's go right into this, because this has been, given what you're just saying about what he's doing, how do you feel about what they're doing with Vision's quote unquote character?
I like what they're doing with it, to be honest. I don't know what's control. See, first of all, I want to know how they got the Mind Stone, how she got the Mind Stone. Where did she go to back in time, wherever, to get the Mind Stone so she could bring him back? I want to know that part. But I think Vision's powers are so powerful. And because he is powered by that Mind Stone, mm-hmm. I think the stone is trying to right the ship and tell him what's going on, even though Wanda is controlling pretty much everything, which I don't even know how that's possible, that she can control his mind like that. I thought that was kind of weird.
Well, I think they're saying what you're saying, because her control, quote unquote, control of him is not as it's not as absolute as her control of everyone else.
Right.
So I like your theory. Actually, I didn't even really think about it like that, but it could be the stone fighting back or whatever. But there are times when he can break out of what's happening, mm-hmm. even before. Mm-hmm. Like there were times where he was asking questions like, why is this happening? Why is that happening? Mm-hmm. And so the point being, I think you're on to it right there, where she doesn't understand why she can't control him, and he doesn't. He just knows something's wrong. Mm-hmm. And then it builds until he finally, when he got mad, it was like, yo, good. Okay. Like, I think they did a lot with his character. I don't know if you remember me telling you I was like, give it a chance. I think they're kind of they're trying some stuff with Vision. Mm-hmm. And, they have to, because he's half the show, essentially. One quick thing about the FBI agent, there's talk of people liked him from Ant-Man and now they like him here. They're talking about giving him a spinoff.
Wow, really?
I know, right? I was like, man, they really like him. Yeah, spinoff talk sometimes gets out of control. Like,
yeah, it really does.
Like the ancillary character, y'all. Like, come on, y'all. It's like, let's check off that. Again, it's like when you talked about the lady from Insecure. It's like, what would the show be about, y'all? You like the character, so what? What would the show be about?
Yeah. Following Kelly, Natasha Rothwell's mm-hmm. character. Mm-hmm. But he tried to get out of the town, and outside of that town, he's dead. So as soon as he tried to get out of it, he started to die. Correct. And actually he did die. But then Wanda had to stretch the town because mm-hmm. one of the twins is a telepath like his mother. And the other twin is like Quicksilver, the brother, who surprised everybody by being brought back on episode 6.
I want to say 5 because I saw that one. Yeah.
And then in 6 was when they were dressed up for Halloween and they wore the classic outfits.
And a tongue-in-cheek reference on that because he was brought back as the recast.
As the Fox
and they mentioned version. It.
Yes, because Darcy was like, whoa, she recasted Vision? I mean, she recasted Quicksilver or Pietro?
Correct.
So they brought back the actor from X-Men Days of Futures Past mm-hmm. and as Quicksilver instead of the one that played him in the MCU. So I thought that was really kitschy, the way they did that.
It's a bold show because, so the quote unquote, the cat's out of the bag for the viewer at this point, but a lot of the hook of the show was intrigue about the style that you were talking about with the different sitcoms. One thing I like in that vein, the commercials.
The commercials are great.
The commercials are great.
The one and they always the kid who couldn't eat the yogurt. Yeah. Who couldn't open the yogurt.
And they always loop something from the Avengers or from Marvel into it, Stark Industries, this or whatever. This is great.
The kid died because he couldn't open the yogurt.
Yeah, I just I'm curious because I mean, again, they sold it as like this is this kind of retro show, and no, we're not going to explain to you why they're in this situation, but like come see them do this kind of comedic angle, and you knew something serious was behind it. But my point being, at some point, like, how do you still reconcile that and putting that in the show with the cat's out of the bag? Here's the main plot, you know. So, but I'm trusting that they have thought of that and they're going to do it regardless. So,
they definitely
I'm very intrigued. I like it, and I think you're in the same camp with everybody else. We were on the train for 2 episodes. Like, what's going on? And they gave you enough breadcrumbs to say, okay, look, stick with it. There's something going on. We'll explain it. Just enjoy. Basically, like, just enjoy the ride. Just enjoy the ride. Enjoy the comedy. Whatever. We'll give you a little something to let you know what's going on. And then in 3, they were like, okay, we can't keep doing that. Here's what's going on. But we're not going to give you the whole thing. And we'll give you more and more and more and more. So it was great. It was awesome.
You definitely got to see today's episode. That's going to blow your mind.
Yeah, I'll probably watch after we saved, ironically. But no, it's been great. It's been great. I'm very excited.
One more new show that we were going to bring up. The Best Man is going to have a limited series with the original cast. Woo. And it's going to be on Peacock. So it's going to be a 10 episode series. And it's basically going to be called like, The Best Man, the final story or the final chapters is what they're going to call it. So by original cast, they pretty much mean everybody but Monica,
who died
I forgot her last name.
Yeah.
She passed away in Best Man Holiday from cancer.
Right.
So they originally said that they were going to do a final movie, but doing it like this is cool too. So
yeah, I'm cool with it. I'm curious. Look, again, I'm trusting they've written something compelling. I'm a little curious, like, what's this about? I wasn't as hard on the second movie as a lot of people were. A lot of people didn't like it.
Fun.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't like it. Have you gotten that sense
I don't understand that.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't like it. I think, The Best Man, it was a comedy. I guess some people thought it was too serious and, whatever. I guess because she died and all that. But it's like, okay, I mean, this is the real world. Like, they were tackling real world issues. It was still fun. I'm not going to say it was as good as the first one. I like the first one a lot.
Oh, no, the first one was great.
Yeah.
Monica Calhoun. I don't know.
Calhoun, okay. Any chance to see Nia Long, I don't care. The Best Man, I'm going to tell you right now, Sham, not that you care, but fellas, Best Man, in my opinion, the first one, Nia Long, A+ game, right there on the spot. Best. I
thought she looked better in Love Jones.
A case could be made there. A case could be made there.
But yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm a big fan of that cast specifically as a together as a group. So I will be watching it, and I'm glad it's going to be on Peacock because that's something I don't have to buy.
We both like Peacock. We both like Peacock. I finished Yellowstone. That show's wild. Peacock.
Oh, you mentioned Yellowstone in Montana. Big Sky had me crazy this week. Like, I was like, this is good shit. Like, I was flipping out. This week's episode was so good.
And when we were discussing Yellowstone before, and then we will move on, I did forget to tell you, I keep making it sound like they're just on this ranch doing whatever. The reason I kept bringing up Montana is because they're involved in Montana politics and they're political figures. So really it's about that. And also, I brought up the Native American component. There's a whole plot line in which they're trying to track down a serial killer who's killing Native American women. And so they delve into sort of these obscure issues that you wouldn't think about if you didn't like live there. So that's why I was connecting it to when you were telling me about the trafficking and stuff. They delve into stuff like that a lot, actually. Yeah.
So you have an update about The Mandalorian?
I do. Listen, I know you always like can't wait for Mandalorian updates.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know what you're talking about.
All right. Here's the update. This is not about the show. Well, it is. It affects the show, but Gina Serrano. So she's the main character on The Mandalorian. Okay. Well, you got Pedro Pascal. She's not in every episode, but she I would say she's been in like half of them. And obviously, I'm not going to go into the minutia of what she does on the show, but she's major. She's a former WWE star. And so she was recognizable to people who like WWE when they came in. Long story short, ever since this show has started, and even before then, she's very conservative. And she's been very active on social media saying ultra conservative / controversial things. She says stuff about trans people. She says stuff about all that in social media. So since the show has started and since she's been on it, there have been a lot of protests online and a campaign to get her kicked off the show. And at the time, I know I've talked about The Mandalorian a lot, but I didn't really give this a lot of traction because it was obvious that Disney wasn't going to do it. And so I thought it was just like, okay, well, they're just letting her be her. Well, in this interim between the second and third season, she decided it would be a good idea to compare conservatives in Hollywood to being Jews in terms of persecution. And she put this on social media. So Disney promptly, there was an immediate backlash. Disney promptly turned around. This was on a Tuesday night. They fired her Wednesday morning. Said she will no longer be on the show, period, full stop. So they may recast the character because her character is very important. So they may either recast her or they may kill her off. But either way, she's been fired. And they kept using the word fired. She's gotten with like Parler and all those conservative people, and she's trying to now get her own show. But it was very big news. And then one of the other things that came out of this was that the whole time people have been trying to get her kicked off, Pedro Pascal has, I think his sister is, because she made fun of like special needs people and all that, his sister's special needs. So she got in trouble behind that. And instead of getting mad with her, he would try to talk to her behind the scenes and be like, look, why don't you, at least like educate her? And he was trying to work with her. And I found that very interesting given the other Pedro Pascal news we have been always talking about. And he was like, I'm just trying to help her and trying to educate her, trying to reform her. But even he was like, I can't defend this.
Some people can't be saved.
Exactly. So they kicked her off. So that's big news. A lot of people watch The Mandalorian. And it's been big news in the Disney Plus community because they stepped out there and they fired her behind golden rule in entertainment: do not say something bad about Jews, period. That's the one thing you will get kicked off for immediately.
Yeah, that was the last straw because she had done a ton of things before that. One source with Lucasfilm said that they had been looking for a reason to fire her for months. Yep. And that was kind of the final straw. Actually, she was not in WWE. She was in MMA.
Oh, sorry.
So MMA was where she came up in the world, but she was in Fast and Furious 6.
Sure,
she was also in Deadpool. That's
right.
But
I don't remember her in Deadpool, but I remember her in Fast 6.
And her agent dropped her too, UTA. So
thank you for reminding me of that, because you and I have always talked about when your agent drops you.
Yeah,
you really are out there.
You're done.
Yeah. So not good.
If they willing to lose that 10% or whatever percent they get, they don't even care.
Because your agent's supposed to be the one trying to save you.
Exactly.
Yeah. So good supplement.
So in our pre-show, we were discussing topics and stuff. You enlightened me to something that happened with Ashley Judd. I had not heard about this, but this is crazy.
Man, Sam, I get most of my news from Google cards, and they just fly in. I saw this Google card and I was like, clickbait, what? Then I clicked it. Ashley Judd took, and may be on a missionary mission. I don't know the exact circumstances of why she's in Africa, but she's in Africa. So I do know that it is humanitarian based. Long story short, she got injured in the middle of like nowhere in Africa, basically. She was helping out some village or something like that. And in the forest, she tripped or fell, what have you. And when I say shattered her leg. Okay. Apparently it was broken in at least 4 places to the point where she couldn't move. But she was in so remote of an area that there was no easy way to get her to a hospital. And she said, had they been trying to move her and do all that stuff, she would have lost her leg. So first thing, one of the people who were immediately there, these are all African people. that are there with her. She's like alone besides them. And one of them sat under her leg, put his leg under her leg so that they could set it and keep it balanced while they awaited for transportation for 5 hours. Okay. So that was the initial thing to save the life or both. Then in this process, someone gets there. He's like, I wouldn't call him a doctor, but he has medical training, proceeds to try to like do enough quote unquote setting of the bone so that fragments aren't just running around her leg and, infections that probably may end up getting there anyway aren't sped up. Extremely painful. They have her like biting down on a stick so that she doesn't bite her tongue as they're doing this. No anesthetics, of course. Okay. Then they finally have to get to a point they're driving, but then they can't drive anymore. This is how remote they are. So then they have to carry her. There's a picture of her being carried between, like in a hammock, basically, between two guys through the jungle. Long story short, between the time of her injury and her getting to a hospital, these people basically between driving and most walking, it took 55 hours for her to get from the point of injury to a hospital. And she credits all these people with helping to save her leg and probably even her life in the process. Like she went on Facebook or social media, I forget what platform, and basically like laid this out chapter and verse and showed all these pictures and all that. And Ashley Judd, I've always liked her, Judd Sisters. And then I've liked her movies. And she's like 55 now. So she's been around a while. But I just thought this story was incredible.
When did this supposedly happen?
Like last week.
Jeez.
I saw it last week. Yeah.
Like I'm looking at the pictures of when they were taking care of her and they were carrying her across this little wooden bridge over this river.
This was extremely dangerous.
Like a hammock.
Yeah. This was extremely dangerous. Yeah. So
interestingly, her husband, Dario Franchitti, was an IndyCar driver and his job was super dangerous, yet she goes and gets her leg crushed.
Yeah.
That's very ironic. An actress.
Yeah.
But wow, I'm glad that worked out because that is like her leg was crushed.
Yeah. They were like, honestly, this happens 99 times out of 100. She would have lost that leg. Mm-hmm. No matter what they did. That's how bad the injury was. So just a horrible story about the injury, but great story just about, I mean, look, what she was doing there in the first place, humanitarian, and then the sacrifice and just human effort that these people took to save her life. It was just a feel-good story. The only bad part is the injury, but apparently she is going to fully recover. So good stuff there. This next one, Sam. Okay. We'll make this a mention just because. So Jodie Turner Smith. I know the name. I'm not immediately familiar with her work.
I do not know this person.
She's an actress.
I just know she's British.
Yeah, she's British. And long story short again, there's...
Yeah, you really got to stop saying that.
Hey, I'm making it short though. Listeners, y'all all nodding too, like, yeah, man, stop saying that. But it's all right. Y'all know me by now. She has been cast, and they're already in production to portray Anne Boleyn. And I think it's a live action play. So one of those like what we've been seeing on TV, Lion King and stuff like that. Look, the long and short of this is this. Anne Boleyn is about the whitest woman, one of the whitest women in history. She's the reason Henry VIII divorced his first wife. He executed her and basically formed the Church of England and left the Catholic Church. Watch The Tudors if you need to know who Anne Boleyn is. She was betrayed by...
Just read a book.
Well, watch The Tudors. It's more entertaining. Tudors was awesome. Matter of fact, Natalie Dormer played her, who would eventually go on to play Marjorie in Game of Thrones. She portrayed Anne Boleyn.
And guess what color she is?
White as snow. White as snow. And look, I'm all for Black people. And I'm not going to hate on this if she wants to do it. I just, in the general bigger discussion, you know, use an actress of her prowess. It's Black History Month, by the way. Let's get a Black project out here that she can play. And not that the two are mutually exclusive, but what is the need to force to shoehorn her into Anne Boleyn's role? That's one of the whitest women in history.
Yeah.
Period. And I'm sorry, white people, but y'all know this is true. That's a white situation she was in. Her husband was in a marriage, or excuse me, the guy she was dating was in a marriage because of the religion of the country at the time. He couldn't get a divorce. He still wanted to be with her. So because he wanted to be with her, he turned his whole country upside down, formed a new religion, and then eventually killed her. I'm sorry, white people. That's white people stuff. That's white people problems. I don't want Black people involved in that. And send your letters to me, but y'all know it's true. That's why y'all sitting there laughing right now. Y'all know Henry VIII is all white all the time. Stop it. But look, she's very excited to play this role. I like in this, Sam. You saw Man of Steel, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we brought it up.
We brought it up before. Lawrence Fishburne. I like him as an actor. He don't need to play. The man's name is Perry White. I think they're trying to tell you something.
Yeah, but that's a fictional character.
I know. Listen, you have said the difference, right? It's like when white people were tripping about The Little Mermaid.
Yeah, it's a fictional character.
So I can't trip about that one, right? You're right.
Like when you do something that's autobiographical, I think you should probably stay in the lane that it was like. Just do the autobiography and put a white person in it if it's about a white person, and put a Black person if it's about a Black person.
Hey, listen, this must have been the same studio executive who wanted Julia Roberts as Harriet Tubman.
Exactly.
He was like, all right, fine, man. I'm sorry about that. Here's my new idea.
Right. That's great. Just keep it tight. That's it.
So she's excited. So hopefully she does a good job. Listen, car accident wise, they've got me to watch it. I'm going to watch it. So we'll see how it plays out. She's a good actress, but I won't be able to get past that. And it better not be a white man. Make Henry VIII Black too, and let's make everybody Black. If you're
gonna do it, you got to make everybody Black,
right? Because a white man is not going to turn the country of England upside down for a Black woman. I don't care who she is.
But then we would have to believe that a Black person would have been the king of England. So then it's just not.
The only part that I'm going to buy is when he executes her at the end. Then I'll be like, all right, y'all brought the point home. Okay, cool.
All right. So before we move on to sports,
yes,
we have one last entertainment news story that came out this week.
Local
and you
connection.
Actually brought it to my attention because I had not heard this. And when I heard it, I was like, But Eddie Murphy is set to star as former DC mayor, Marion Barry, in a movie directed by Spike Lee. How do we feel about this, Shaka?
I don't, Sam, you sure I gave you this one? I really thought you gave me this one.
Maybe not.
Okay. I'm about to say, claim your credit. But so listen, I am nervous about this.
It's funny that you say you're nervous because at first, when we first discussed it, you were kind of like, yeah, this is great.
Yeah, I know. You know why? Because of my just visceral like for Eddie Murphy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, look, Eddie Murphy can pull this off. He'll be fine. But then I've had more time to think about it. And it's like, okay, on paper, I should be fine with this. Spike Lee, Eddie Murphy, a subject I care about, the mayor of our city, Marion Barry. But then I thought about it, and I'm basically coming down on it like this. Marion Barry, who we've talked about on this show multiple times.
Oh, I did send it to you.
Yeah, I'm about to say you sent that to me because that's
was
why
my discovery.
Yeah, because I didn't have time to think about my reaction. That's how I know. But look,
Senior
Marion Barry, you've mentioned it, we've mentioned it. He got in trouble. He's known nationally for the mayor who smoked crack and what have you. But it goes a lot deeper than that when you're from DC. And I think I've said this on this show. People like my grandmother who influenced basically my political views in life. The one thing she and I never saw eye to eye on is, just unflinching loyalty to Marion Barry. But she was not nearly alone. There's a reason the man was reelected after being caught on tape smoking crack. Okay. And it got played out. And look, I'm not, and everything that she said, I will say this. She gave this more credence and they gave this more credence than I think it's worth. But it's true. Marion Barry, for all his personal faults, looked out, especially for the Black people of DC. Never wanted them to get trampled on. And when you're looking at gentrification and stuff now, making a movie about Marion Barry is going to evoke some very raw emotions, even for people like me, but even older people in DC. And Eddie Murphy is a great actor, but his presence tells me that there's a possibility of some comedic angles in this. And I want Spike Lee and Eddie Murphy and everyone else to be very careful because the story of Marion Barry is serious. Now, you and I both talked before the show. We've met him. We met him in life, and yeah, he was an awesome guy, you know, in terms of he cracked jokes. He was a cool guy. He did this, he did that. But when we're talking about a biography, a biopic, yeah, I don't want too much comedy in this because there's a lot of seriousness and sadness and general heavy issues that need to be addressed. So I trust it, but I'm nervous. This is delicate. That's my thought.
I didn't think about this when we were talking about it earlier, but Eddie Murphy played in Dreamgirls. Mm-hmm. And that role was very serious.
Yes, it was.
It was a phenomenal role, and he should have won an Oscar for it. But I think they kind of... Norbit screwed that up for him, which is stupid. They boned him because of that. Yeah.
That is dumb. That's the dumbest thing ever.
He had won everything else, but they didn't give him that Oscar. So... he's capable. He can do it. He's got the credentials in that movie to show us what he can do and make and play that serious role. I also watched a movie called Mr. Church.
I haven't even heard of that.
Fantastic movie. I think it came in like 2016.
Okay.
Where he plays a cook, but he was basically put into this family's life by someone else in that family. They didn't know about it, but he just kind of like they thought they met him by happenstance, but he was actually sent there to them. And there was a woman and her daughter. The woman was suffering from cancer and he was to look over them. And that was a very serious movie. I don't think
was this wide release?
It was like independent.
Okay.
It was a great movie. I think it's on like, recently I saw it on either like Amazon or one of those streaming platforms that we both have. Sure. So it's accessible. You could see it. But it was a great movie.
Did he get any recognition?
Nah, it really went under the radar.
It really went, way under. Okay.
But so he can do it. Mm-hmm. My thing is when I think of Marion Barry and just like optics wise, I wouldn't have chosen Eddie Murphy. I think he'll do an excellent job. Like I was even saying to you, like this seems like more of a Don Cheadle type thing.
Yeah, no, that was a great observation on your part.
Or I said Sterling K. Brown, or I just wouldn't figure that Eddie Murphy and Marion Barry, sometimes you have these roles and people look perfect for the part. And some people you're like, I don't know about that. Right. I love Eddie Murphy. We both love Eddie Murphy. We talked about him a great deal on this show, how much we
absolutely
love and respect him, but I just didn't see him in this role. Now, I'm not the casting director, so I don't have a say, but I will still watch it just because I'm curious about his portrayal, how he's going to show the world what we already know
exactly
locally.
I mean, and honestly, as you've been talking, you've kind of helped me form my opinion. I keep saying this. I need to stop looking at Maria Taylor, or she needs to stop coming on when I'm on the podcast. But anyway, she's awesome. I'm sorry. Every time I see her, I would say something. But maybe I'm not as concerned with Eddie Murphy now that we're talking about it as I am with Spike Lee. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I love Spike Lee as well. Spike Lee has his highs are real high. And then you got movies like what was it, Chirac? where you take a serious
she hate me.
Yeah, exactly. And really the Chirac thing jumps out of my mind because it's like you take a serious issue like gun violence in Chicago, and I haven't even seen the movie. I heard it was trash. Period.
I saw it. I watched it.
And I think you might have been one of the people that told me it was trash.
Yeah, it was trash.
Yeah. And it's like, you take a serious issue and you're trying to approach it seriously, but you're just like, as a phrase that I said I've hated, but as applicable here, you missed the mark, Slim. So don't miss the mark on this.
Not for nothing, you missed the mark.
Right. Not for nothing. Not for nothing is bad. Yes. I used to say that in my youth. I stayed away from it, and I definitely haven't said it on a podcast. To your point, I think everyone in the DMV will watch this. This will be a Super Bowl movie for us to watch a movie about Marion Barry, period.
Kind of like when Talk to Me came out.
Right.
I mean, Petey Green was a local dude.
Yes.
And, everybody in this area went to see that. And Don Cheadle played the hell out of him.
Yes, he did. And thank you for reminding me of that, because, yes, look, Don Cheadle and Eddie Murphy have both shown an appreciation of history. Eddie Murphy, even when he made movies like Harlem Nights, people like the pan Harlem, not black people, but white people, like the pan Harlem Nights. It's like, that's a better movie about prohibition than I've seen in a while. And that's a comedy. So why don't y'all calm down? He clearly knows history. Again, I don't know if he's just going to be the actor and let Spike Lee guide the whole vision.
I doubt that.
I doubt it too. So that's why I'm encouraged, because I feel like the synergy between them, Eddie Murphy ain't just going to show up and be like, okay, Spike, well, this is a bad script, but I'll go ahead and do it. No, he's not going to do that. So maybe I've talked myself into being less nervous, but I want it to be really good. So I guess that nervousness will not go away. I don't want it. It's not being trash is not the bar. Like, it needs to be very good, in my opinion. So that's where I'm at with it. Well, I'm excited either way.
Yep. And we're both going to tune in.
Yes, we will.
All right, ready to get into some sports?
Always. Good sports. Man, let's start with the surprise here.
Well, it's great that we're starting with this, because it's been a while since we've talked about tennis. And the Australian Open is one of the big ones.
Yeah.
And it's actually, I haven't seen all of the matches, but it's been very entertaining, especially on the men's side, though. The men's side has been crazy.
Yes, absolutely.
But specifically, we are discussing Serena Williams and Naomi Osaka's semi-final match.
Sure.
Which Naomi Osaka won 6-3, 6-3, I want to say, or 6-3, 6-4.
6-4, yeah. No, it was 6-4. The second.
Okay. And what I appreciated, because I didn't see it, so you're going to be the one to tell everybody about, how that match went. But what I appreciated about it in the aftermath is all the other players just talking about how much they love watching her and how they wish that she would just never stop playing. And even Naomi was just like, I feel like I'm a kid every time I see her.
Yeah.
So that being said, Naomi beat her again. And Serena's still stuck on number 23.
Yeah. So a couple of things. I appreciate the sentiment, and we posted on the page. I am getting to the point where I certainly don't want to be proactive in wanting Serena to stop playing. However, I am getting a little wary of seeing her get to a certain point and not winning. And the toll it takes on me to see that happen, I'd rather, if it's going to be like that, then maybe I might not want to see her keep going. Now, here's the other thing. So that was a convoluted explanation. But the point being, I don't like to see her getting to a certain point and losing. I just don't. And especially the way that she's been losing. Now, Osaka's a little different, because I'm not going to say she definitely doesn't, quote unquote, have her number, but she's a hard opponent for her. Osaka clearly has studied the way she, as a matter of fact, she studied her to the point where she kind of like plays like her to a certain extent. So
it's like
she's
Kobe
just younger.
And MJ.
Yeah,
Kobe
she's just younger. She's younger than her.
And the tape is out there.
And the tape is there. So, and I think Osaka makes plays against her that she doesn't even make. Osaka loses a lot, like, early to other people. If she played like she played against Venus, she would be the next Venus, which people are calling her. But Serena. But she's not, because she doesn't do that all the time.
Yeah.
She's not as consistent as she should be. But when she plays Serena, she gets her game up, she imitates her, and she beats her. Now, the match itself, look, some of the stuff we've been saying about Serena, and mind you, this is a semifinal. So it's not like she got all the way to the final this time. Matter of fact, this was the earliest she's been kicked out of the Aussie Open in quite a long time. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think they said that.
Because she made it to the final, I think, the last time.
Exactly. She
came out and didn't win.
She didn't come out flat, but her forehand was flat. There were things that it was obvious coming out the gate that she hadn't gotten it together. Just like in times past, it was 6-4 in the second set because there was a moment where it looked like she was going to get it together and take the mat and turn it around. But really what that was more about, she was playing better, but Osaka got in her own head because she started like double faulting and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then she kind of got her breath, cleaned herself up, and just literally like just start acing her off the court. And she served 4 aces when she had her serve the next game to make it 5-4. And after that, you could tell she took the win out of Serena Sells. I say all that to say, at the end of the match, Serena comes out and does her normal, wave or whatever. And then she puts her hand over her heart and kind of gives a kiss. And everyone has interpreted that to mean that she, in the back of her mind, thinks that she may not come back there. Period.
She was playing like lights out up until that point, though. She did. I mean, and here's the thing that people need to remember. Serena's 39. She's going to be 40 this year.
Yes.
And although she does not look like it and she does not play like it at times, I mean, Father Time is undefeated.
Correct.
And, and that's just what it is. She may never, I mean, I hate to say this, she may never get to Margaret Court's 24. But her career is definitely not anything to sniff at. Like,
sure. I think she actually will. I think what'll happen, kind of like Jack Nicklaus winning the Masters, or more recently Tiger winning the Masters, and I know it's a different sport. You have a person that's good enough where they can conjure up something and strike lightning in a bottle for one more time, and maybe even 2 in her case, because she's getting close enough where she's not like getting washed off the court. And so I think she can maybe at the next US or whatever it is, Wimbledon, she can get that magic and do it, because she still has the mental hold. There were times where you could tell Osaka was afraid. It was like, oh my God, I'm about to beat her. So now I'm about to start screwing up. And she could tell that. And then she starts playing her little games, she starts yelling and stuff like that. And that's still like has an effect on people, a plausible one. One thing I want to say about her after the match, at her press conference, she took one question. And then somebody asked her about what she did on the court, and then she started crying and left. So that to me tells me that there's a serious bug in her mind. Like, if I don't go through these next wave of Grand Slams, by the time I get to this one again, maybe I'll just not even come. Because the question was like, you kind of, I don't know, the context was, your conduct there kind of made it seem like you were waving goodbye to the crowd for the last time. Is that the case? Didn't answer, start crying and left. So that's a little, concerning. I will say she was not, to your point, she was playing lights out, and I don't want to oversell or undersell what she was doing. She was not like just falling flat like we complained about in some of her other finals appearances, where it was just like she's not there. Osaka was better. She was better than her. In the match, she was outplaying her, and Osaka's good when she can play consistently like that. And that's it. And one last thing, I apologize. Thank you for pointing out how old she is. Serena Williams playing tennis at this level at this age. We don't talk about Tom Brady and these ghost things. That was like Tom Brady doing this at 50 or 52. 40 years old at tennis is like what? Like 20-something is old.
Yeah, 20-something is not old anymore. Remember, back in the day, like late 80s, early 90s, like you were at your peak if you were like 17, 18. Right. A lot of people don't even get good until they're in their 20s now. Because I think because the Williams sisters have shifted the game. Like it's all about power and less about finesse. And you got to get really, really strong. When you're that young, you don't have as much power. So, I think, she can win it again. And I don't want to, I was just saying she may never, because that's the reality that we have to face.
Yes.
But, tennis is one of those sports where everything has to work out. So, for example, what if someone else had beaten Naomi Osaka in an early round in the semifinals? She wouldn't even have had to face her. So you have those tournaments where unexpected people end up in the final and winning because people that you expected to be there fell early. Mm-hmm. So that could end up being a situation for her or anybody else for that matter. So tennis is one of those things where those things can happen and she could win again. I mean, she could also just have a better day against Naomi Osaka. But tennis is just one of those things where it's just kind of up in the air. You got to move through the rounds and see who's left.
And your adversary. Yeah.
And also too, you know, like you said it, Naomi Osaka is not very consistent. Mm-hmm. She plays up against Serena. Mm-hmm. There are matches that she plays and you're like, there's no way she should have lost that match. Absolutely. And I believe I saw someone post, well, she and someone else had said that too. It was posted on Facebook. Yeah, but she doesn't win all the time. I think Dre had posted it or something. And somebody was like, well, she must be winning if her ranking is blah, 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 blah. Rankings. Yeah. Rankings are based on points.
It's nonsense.
It's not about how many things that you win. Yes, winning helps you, but Jelena Jokic was the number one player in the world for almost 2 years straight and never won a Grand Slam.
Exactly.
So it's that is relative. I mean, Serena she doesn't play as many tournaments, so she's not getting all of the points, which is why she's not the number one ranked player in the world. And that's why Roger and a lot of people aren't ranked as high as their play should put him. But no, it's about points. People are just out here racking up points, and that makes their rankings higher. Like, get out of here. And
points are about consistency. Rankings are about consistency. If you win the Grand Slam and then come out the next tournament and get bounced out the first round, but somebody else is getting second and then third and then second and then third, they're consistent. They're at least getting there. They might not be winning the whole thing, but eventually they keep doing that. They will be the number one player in the world.
Right. And it's based on the points that you got last year. Yeah. If you got 1,000 points at Wimbledon last year and this year at Wimbledon, you got only 200 points, guess what? Your ranking's going to drop.
It's going to be dropped.
That's just the way it is.
And that's why people can coast and be, oh, okay, well, I got bounced out of the final, but, you know, I'll make the quarterfinal and be rich as King Midas because they're going to get their winnings and keep going. And be on consistent. And then eventually they may get a final or something. And they'll say, all right, I'll hang my hat on that one. But yeah, I'm cool out here. I get the finals. I get beat. Right. That's why sometimes they just shake their hand and leave. They don't care.
Right.
Like, give me my bag.
Said, Osaka will probably win the Australian Open tonight or tomorrow night.
And when you talk about tennis, I mean, let's talk about the men real quick. And this is a good example of why tennis is such a mental sport and everything has to go right. There is no logical reason other than getting in your own head why Nadal got bounced in the first round or maybe second round. I forget.
No, he got bounced in the semifinals.
Yeah. Well, okay. My point being, the only reason is because he plays different on clay than he does like everywhere else. Now, he's good a lot of other places, but he's like unstoppable on clay. And it's like, dude, that's in your own mind. Period.
He went 5 sets, and there was some stat that said something like he's only lost 2 other times in his entire career after being up going into the 5th set. Like, he just doesn't lose 5 setters. So this is only the 3rd one he's lost in like 243 tries or something like that.
You know, that was my excuse to bring him up because he lost, right? And I'm happy.
Yeah, and you tried to play him and say he lost early. No, he lost in the semis, just like Serena.
He ain't win the final. You
tried to play him.
He ain't as good as Serena. He need to go home. Get on. So he missed his steroid shot today.
So we didn't record last week for reasons that so we didn't get to mention the Super Bowl. So Tampa Bay won.
Pleased with that result.
We both were. I was riding with 12. I was going for the old heads, and they won convincingly, which was crazy. We talked about this a lot off of the podcast. Definitely a lot of people were saying, oh, the refs won the game for Tampa Bay.
I did not get that at all.
I didn't get that at all. Yeah, there was a couple sketchy calls, but that's what always happens.
What are you guys talking about? They did not score a touchdown.
Right.
The refs can't control all of that. Kansas City didn't score a touchdown, guys.
The refs were pass rushers. You didn't know that?
Exactly. Patrick Mahomes was getting pummeled. Patrick Mahomes was getting the Tom Brady from the Giants treatment and from the Eagles treatment.
Todd Bowles definitely had the refs out there blocking. But and I'm to move on with that point. Todd Bowles and his defense was what won that Super Bowl.
Absolutely.
It was incredible. So
Brady played well. I will say that. He is who he is. There was a spectacular throws in there. Again, the man still has it. He still has it. I believe I've ad nauseum at this point talked about my concerns early in the season. And you know what? He said, I like what he said when he was giving this, they had him up on the podium. He talked about, number one, he's coming back. Of course, we all knew that. He was like, of course I'm coming back. What? And then when he was talking about the season, he said, listen, going into November, essentially, and through November up until the bye week, that bye week was critical because we were struggling. And he said, I was struggling. And that bye week, and I forgot, they were the last team to have a bye week in the entire league. So their bye week was the latest. And it gave them an opportunity to get together. He said, we got together. I got with BA, Bruce Arians. And we sat down, we figured things out. And then they came back. And I think if they lost any games, it was one after that. And they just got it together. And look, Tom Brady's smart. He understands, like, look, this isn't about me. I just wanted to get on a good team. I'm doing my job out here, but we had stuff to figure out. But to your point, the defense won that game. He just had to make sure that he did his part, and he did do his part.
He just managed the game like he does.
Gronk, 2 touchdowns. Monstrous game.
Came off the street last year.
Monstrous.
He wasn't even in shape until that game.
Right. I was listening to one of our earlier shows of the season. I was like, man, you can't expect Gronk to be the same Gronk. Well, he didn't have a Gronk season, but he had a Gronk Super Bowl.
He had a Gronk playoffs.
Yeah, he did. he had a Gronk, all of that. AB had a touchdown. I'm sure he was happy about that. I was happy for him. I was like,
I was happy for him. I know you have said how you felt about him, considering how he dealt with your Raiders.
Yeah, but he trashed us, but at the end of the day, I was like, you know what, man? No news is good news with you. I haven't heard you in the news lately. Keep your head down, do that. You and Tom have a bromance, score your touchdown. That's cool. Plus, again, you're doing this to Kansas City. Andy Reid got severely criticized, Shan, for this game. Now, Todd Bowles should get credited, but people act like Andy Reid, did something wrong. I guess, look, you lose the game and you don't score a touchdown. There's fair criticism, but I thought it was a little over the top. They act like he just didn't know what the hell he was doing coming to the Super Bowl. The stuff I was hearing after the Super Bowl. Maybe overreaction alert. I don't know. Chiefs will be fine. They'll be right back.
Tom Brady is his kryptonite.
Yeah, that's a good point. But you look, Mahomes, we both understand whether it's the concussion, whether it's the toe or whatever, he wasn't 100%. But that being said, I've said this, and a lot of people just thought I was hating on Mahomes. Mahomes has a cannon of an arm. He has a great coach, and he has a great scheme. There's still things he does, and the Super Bowl was proof of that. That shows me he still has a long way to go. When people are like, oh, my God, he's going to be the next GOAT. No, he makes, first of all, dumb decisions a lot. It just gets covered up by how good he is. And he still, there are times when he doesn't manage, especially in a situation you're hurt. Like, if Tom Brady's toe is hurt, he's still going to throw that ball around and still get it because he's like, I don't need to run. What am I running for? And, Mahomes just didn't seem like he understood that, okay, I'm not 100%. I can't run around. I need to get the ball out of my hands quickly. We have the same offense. Let's do it. He was making dumb decisions. Some of those sacks were on him. So that's my 2 cents about that.
Looking like Carson Wentz out there.
Ooh, we'll get to him. Ooh, we'll get to him. Not your problem no more, huh?
Nope.
So look, the Super Bowl down in Tampa,
which is crazy that they had a Super Bowl. They had a home field Super Bowl. That's
couldn't even enjoy.
Never been done.
Yeah. And they had 25,000 people. We talked about that. The atmosphere on TV looked good. You like the commercials before we get to the next story?
I don't remember the commercials. I fast forwarded them. I didn't watch.
Oh, really?
Because remember, I DVR'd the game.
Yeah, I watched them though. That's the only time I would watch commercials, even in DVRs, to see them. I liked a lot of them. I like the Cardi B Wayne's World one. But anyway.
Yeah, I see that one every day now.
Exactly. You see it all the time. All right. Now, staying in Tampa, unfortunately, the sad story came out almost the following week after the Super Bowl. Vincent Jackson, receiver, started with the Chargers, spent the majority of his career there, but then ended up going to Tampa. Was found dead in a hotel room in which he had been apparently living for a while. Now, stories about why he was there and, what his life was looking like are still kind of coming out. Actually, this week, there was a little bit of a controversy because the sheriff down there had a press conference kind of giving a status update on the investigation. And he opened up he dropped all these hints about Vincent Jackson's alcoholism and all this stuff. So he throws all this stuff out there at the press conference. But then he walks it back from saying if that was the cause of his death. So Vincent Jackson's family immediately came out and was like, he's not speaking for us. Basically, he's jumping out there. But a 38-year-old, 38 or 39, I forget. Healthy. 38. Yeah, healthy, by all means, athlete found dead in the hotel room. I mean, immediately, you start thinking the worst. So I was not aware, Sham, of the community activism that Vincent Jackson engaged in. Apparently, he was the man of the year for both the Chargers and Tampa multiple times. This was a person who was very, very involved in both communities. Both teams made just overflowing statements about him. Apparently, the charity that he set up, I want to say in Tampa, but then he branched it back to, I guess San Diego for him, was specifically geared towards, there was a connection with veterans. I think his dad was a veteran.
Yeah.
And so, he
both of his parents were in the military.
Exactly. So it was specifically geared for military members and helping them with anything from PTSD to healthcare and stuff like that. And this organization wasn't just fluff on paper. This was a real grassroots organization that he put a solid foundation around. So he was married. I think he had maybe 2 kids and had been married for a while, but it's still a little dicey why he was in the hotel and why he had been there for a while. Had been living there. So sad, very sad to see that happen.
They donated his brain to CTE research. And
unfortunately, that's also where you have to go. I'm glad his family did that, but still sad. It seemed like I remember when he was with Chargers, he eat my Raiders for dinner. Vincent Jackson was huge.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, we could not cover him, period.
I remember him more so with the Chargers than with Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I definitely, to your point, we were talking about this earlier. I definitely don't remember him with Tampa like that. I always remember him with the Chargers, but I assumed that was my personal bias because I remember playing him. And I remember seeing him on the field and be like, yo, we can't cover him. And I remember looking at the Chargers like, why don't y'all just throw to him all the time? He's 6'5".
He was on my fantasy team a couple times.
Yeah. Yeah. Put up some pretty impressive numbers. Most of them, to your point. Now, I will say this, regardless of the time spent, most of the production was with the Chargers by far. No matter how long.
Definitely.
Yeah. Now, sticking with the Chargers, we spent the majority of time in terms of talking about Marty Schottenheimer. At that point, he was still alive. He did pass away since we've been on, since we've taped last time. So, look, we already talked about him, his legacy, what have you. Good connection with Vincent Jackson. He coached Vincent Jackson probably in his prime, as we just talked about. He was the coach of the Chargers when Vincent Jackson was there, at least part of the time. Maybe he got let go, North Turner. But anyway, so he did pass. So he did not. He was not able to stay in hospice for that long before he passed away.
Yeah, I remember. I think they were 14-2 and lost in the first round of the playoffs, and he got fired.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned that he was being moved to hospice, and usually that means that they don't have long. Although we also mentioned that people can stay in hospice for a while, but like he literally died within that same week.
Oh yeah, a couple of days.
And it was from Alzheimer's complications. So rest in peace to Marty Schottenheimer.
Definitely, and we talked about the Redskins or Washington. Well, no, the Redskins for him because that's who he was with. I saw kind of a tepid statement, but that's Dan Snyder, man. Like, dude, write a nice statement about Marty Schottenheimer. Like, is it that difficult? Like, stop. That was 20 years ago. This is a layup. This is a good chance for you to get good PR and be a classy individual for once. Once again, you fail.
I didn't have to say anything at all, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, say something. He did give him production.
I mean, the press team could just put out a statement.
Oh, right. Okay, I see.
We don't need to hear from him.
Right. But I mean, if he was smart, he would do something. But good. He's not smart. All right. What we got?
NFL offseason moves.
Sham.
The NFL stove.
Sham. Are we gonna call this the Eagles troll? Go ahead.
No, I mean, first of all, I don't even know why you call it trolling because I don't think you're trolling. I think
thank you.
Why do you keep saying that? I don't know, but
I feel a necessity to defend myself against the possibility.
So the big news this week is that Carson Wentz was finally traded at my suggestion to the Indianapolis Colts. I've been on that train for months. Like, this ain't news to me. I'm just glad they finally did it. I've been saying since we started this freaking podcast that he needed Frank Reich, and now they are reunited. And for their case, I hope it feels that good. Also, I didn't know that Press Taylor was with the Colts now too, which is interesting because Press Taylor was the one that I was bitching about a couple years ago, who had gotten promoted from quarterbacks coach to assistant and had shown nothing. Like, Carson Wentz was looking crazy, and you're promoting Press Taylor? Yeah, get that clown. I'm glad he gone too. Was he packaged with them? I don't know, but he ain't there. So what we got was a conditional first round pick and a third round pick and $33.8 million of dead cap space, which we knew was going to happen.
Yeah, we knew you'd take some kind of hit. Yeah. And
we would have had 25 if they kept him. Or we would have been 25 over the cap if we kept him. But now you got 33 million just chilling there for a player that you don't even have.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad that's over because I called it and it's done. You knew once Phillip Rivers retired that it was a high possibility, and now he's there and they can try to do whatever they do in Indianapolis. Like you said, not my problem anymore. No more Winsylvania. Now it's Hertzylvania, apparently.
Yeah. And when we talked about it most recently, I think you just wanted, you didn't want him dictating things to the team. And I totally get that. But I think we both both understood, like, if you get something reasonable for him, he's toxic, get him out.
Right.
Yeah. And I think they got a more than reasonable package for him. Get him out anyway. Frank Wright, like you said, go ahead and work with him. And y'all use those picks and fill whatever holes you got.
Holla at your boy.
Mm-hmm.
Ben Roethlisberger is staying.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which is crazy.
But what about, go ahead.
And Ryan Clark is like legit my favorite person.
And you know what? He's always best when something about Pittsburgh comes up. Because he just takes you right behind the curtain.
He don't give a shit.
He does not care.
He's like, look, Ben, thank you for the Super Bowl. I wouldn't have got that without you, but you need to bounce. It's time for you to go.
Yo, Ryan Clark, I'm like, if there's a code about what you're supposed to do, you have broken all of them. Because anytime anything from Pittsburgh comes up, he always tells a story that, I'm like, should you be telling that? But thank you for telling it because it's very entertaining.
He got that whole who gonna check me boo attitude.
Yes. I remember when he first got... Ryan Clark should be credited for the first person to tell the world how ignorant AB was. Because everybody before that was like, oh, well, we heard he's kind of a troublemaker. He was like, no, he's ignorant. Like, and here's why. Here are all the receipts, all the ignorant things he was doing. And then I remember when AB would go like he triggered AB actually into started acting more crazy.
Exactly. But yeah, no. Brian Clark be like, look, I said this, fight me.
Mm-hmm. Fight me. Yeah, what you gonna do? It's like, yo, okay. But nah, I haven't seen the segment, but I can imagine it. I will watch it because they come on YouTube all the time.
Yeah, it was on Get Up, and then he doubled down on First Take.
On First Take. Okay. I was gonna ask you, what about, and I'm sure this came up during the segment, how the Pittsburgh GM was just like, I mean, as of this exact moment, like right now, he's our QB. I was like, yo, that's some Daryl Morey stuff. Like, are you trading Carmelo? Well, if you're asking me if I'm in the process of trading him as I'm talking to you, the answer is no. But like, I'm about to go back and trade him like in 5 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yo, if they draft a quarterback this year, you already know what's up.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I heard talk. Somebody was saying that they should try to get not Jameis, but maybe Jameis, somebody else in there. And I was like, really?
Why?
It's just, I'm like, okay, what's the backup situation looking like? Like, I don't know.
Man, whatever.
Yeah.
So Houston has repeated that they're not trading Deshaun Watson, even though last week they were saying that they were open to it, and now they're back to we're not trading him. Yeah. They released JJ Watt at his request. I don't know where he's gonna go.
Yeah.
I'm sure somebody will pick him up. I mean, I didn't realize JJ Watt was only 32.
Oh,
it seemed like he's been around forever.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, that felt about right. But if somebody had told me he was older, I wouldn't have been surprised.
I wouldn't.
I'll put it that way.
Oh, he's younger, right? So I don't know where he's gonna. Somebody's definitely gonna pick him up. Be amazing if he makes it through a whole season, but whatever.
I wouldn't mind my Raiders picked him up. I mean, for the right price.
But he always hurt though.
Just give us those 3 or 4 games. That's how bad our line is, man. Just give us those 3 or 4. We'll make do. We'll pass work the whole thing.
There's speculation that Deshaun Watson wants to go to Carolina. I don't know why. Christian McCaffrey would probably love that.
Did you see who speculated for Deshaun Watson to come to the Raiders?
You?
Besides me, we posted on the page. One Mr. Dame Dollar jumped out there. It was like, yo, Deshaun Watson needs to go to Raiders. So I'm sure Derek Carr didn't like that, but Dave Dollar, Derek Carr, holler at Dave Dollar, see those results.
Yeah.
That's not the one you want.
He got a diss track ready.
Correct. And then don't see him in person either. Like I said, somebody go watch that footage of that dude trying Dame before he walked in that arena, and that tells you all you need to know. But
Hulu is just not live sports.
Yeah. Don't get fooled by the Hulu commercial. Like, that dude will buck at you out there, right there on the court. My man said,
another one, fight me.
Yeah. He literally, dude said, he turned around. What did you say? Dude said nothing. I ain't never seen nobody say that. Straight up was like, I ain't say that.
I was just playing.
Back door. Yeah, but anyway, Dame jumped out there. Said, hey, he should go to Raiders. I didn't even know Dame. I guess he's from Oakland, I guess.
Yeah, he is from Oakland.
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. He is. But he was like, yeah, he need to go there. He need to pick him up. I was like, yo, Deshaun. I was like, Deshaun, listen to him. Yeah.
So. Like, if it wasn't for the fact that he played in Portland, you wouldn't even know that he didn't live in Oakland.
Right.
Like, even when they played the Warriors in the playoffs, it was like they had this whole story about him, and people were like cheering for him and all that kind of stuff. Like, he was a big deal in Oakland when he was younger.
So we'll see what happens with Deshaun.
Yeah,
it's awesome though. If he came there, I'd be ecstatic. Anyway,
you would be ecstatic. Mm-hmm. So Urban Meyer.
All right, look, I've said many times I like Ohio State. I've also said, and we've said, I don't think we've called Urban Meyer's trash. Urban Meyer's trash.
I mean, we did that story about him hiring the assistant who
exactly
with the domestic abuse,
and breaking the phone, and then for whatever reason getting a job at Ohio State for teaching character, and it's like, stop.
How you teaching somebody character?
You're not teaching anybody character, and here's yet another example. So Urban Meyer has now been made the showrunner, and I don't think we actually talked about it, but it kind of happened in between a few shows. He's been made the showrunner of Jacksonville. So he's not only head coach. I think he might be. No, he gets to basically decide who his general manager was. So it was one of those situations. So he brings in his guy's name, Chris Doyle. I know his last name's Doyle. This is a strength and conditioning coach from Iowa who got in trouble at Iowa for racism. I mean, pure and simple. The black players said that for years, this wasn't just coach being hard on players. He was giving racist taunts, doing all that. And it was enough players over a variety of years. Iowa did an investigation, said they were right, and fired him. Point blank. Now, he got a huge parachute deal. They fired him, but they still paid him. And basically it was like, we'll pay you until you find another job. One of those golden parachutes. So Urban Meyer, knowing this, hires this man and says at the time when people question it, I've known Chris for, I keep saying Chris, but I'll look up. I've known him for 20 years and we know of the concerns and basically like we'll deal with them and nothing like that will happen here. Defiant. That was maybe early in the week, Monday or Tuesday. By Wednesday, the head of the Fritz Pollard Alliance. So the Fritz Pollard Alliance, for all you who don't know, are the people in the NFL in charge, the organization in charge of diversity, basically, and enforcing it. They are the ones who ostensibly either came up with the Rooney Rule with Art Rooney or campaigned for it. And they're the ones who kind of give the blessing whenever there's which kind of irritates me about this story. They're the ones who the NFL goes to if it looks like the Rooney Rule has been circumvented or has been compromised. So if a team gives I was about to say your name, a fake interview to a minority candidate, like the Raiders did, for example. I know, right? Like the Raiders did, for example, when we brought up like some equipment manager to interview and then hire John Gruden like 5 seconds later. And then it's the Fritz Pollard Alliance who jumps out there and it's like, no, we're cool with that interview. You guys are fine. You went by the Rooney Rule. They decided to jump out there about this though. And they just completely blasted Urban Meyer. Was like, this hiring is unacceptable. Given this dude's record at Iowa, like how can any of the black players even trust you? I mean, they went in on it. And they were like, basically like, you need to fire this dude. So after they did that, then the dude, apparently Mr. Doyle, resigned the next day. That resignation was pushed by Urban Meyer. I accepted his resignation. Fine, whatever you want to say. And then he says it was short-sighted of me and this and that. Dude, Sham, that's the kind of apology. You don't mean that because you were defiant 2 days ago. What changed? A statement. You got more hot water. That's it. That's Ted Cruz going to Cancun. That's what that is. How can you be more sorry on Thursday than you were on Tuesday when you say you knew this dude? You gave me chapter and verse reason why you hired him. You knew him for 20 years and you got this under control. Urban Meyer, trash. That's the same thing that made you pick up that phone and break it when they were going to ask you if that dude's wife had been calling you about him beating her up. Trash. I'm glad you're not at Ohio State anymore. I like the sweater vest anyway. Jim Tressel. Loved him. He got ran out of town on bogus that tattoo thing. Otherwise, Urban Meyer wouldn't even been there. Trash. Anyway, so that's Jacksonville. And you know what, Jacksonville? Y'all bring in trash. Y'all gonna continue to be trash. Trash happens. So Sham, let's talk some NBA before we wrap up.
Yeah, this is a supersized one right now.
I know, right? We recorded a little bit. We at the midpoint of the season. Almost, right? Of this 72-game season.
Man, I guess. I can't keep track.
How much NBA do you think you've been watching?
1%.
I hear that. Quick note, my Wizards are actually on a 3-game winning streak and beat some impressive teams, beat Denver and all that. So maybe Bradley Beal stays. Bradley Beal also, I didn't say this, is the leading vote getter in All-Star guards.
That's amazing.
Like 100,000. Yeah, over Kyrie, over all that. So maybe it's a pity vote. People like, yo, get this dude up. Let this dude play in a meaningful game in the All-Star game.
And honestly, I think people just like him.
No, they do like him. Nah, he's a good guy. So, look, the NBA, I got smoke. The players apparently need to be talked into, some of the players need to be talked into doing ads that encourage, especially minorities, to go get the coronavirus vaccine. Now, Sam, I've been trying to be, and I have, restraining myself, especially on the show, about giving my thoughts about taking the vaccine or not. But the NBA players at this point, they had to bring experts in to convince them to do it. So you don't have to be convinced to go to a strip club. You don't have to be convinced to break COVID violations, it violate COVID protocols, which a lot of them have been doing this season, especially. You don't have to be convinced for all this other stuff, but you have to be convinced to go out and try to get people who might not take the vaccine, but may listen to somebody like you to take it. Like, what is your problem, son? That's my smoke. I can't. This kind of stuff makes me can't stand them. And then one complain about the bubble. So.
I think the only thing I want to add to this is that I think with the NBA, they probably should all be required to get the vaccine at this point. And I think with all the major sports, they probably should, just because because they are super spreader events within themselves. Yeah. They just are. So it's just probably better. I mean, there are a lot of jobs out there that require vaccinations. Schools require it, things like that. And I think they probably should. The NBA and the other three major sports should probably do it too.
And you know what? When we were talking about this briefly earlier, they require testing. So if you require testing, you should require the vaccine.
Yeah.
It's all the same tree.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So good observation there. All right. So we got the All-Star break coming up.
Keisha Lance's bottoms ain't for it.
Ain't having it. It's supposed to be in Atlanta. No, guys. Turn that train around. And head that way. Yeah, I like her statement. Did you read her statement?
Yeah, I did read it.
I liked it. She was like, under normal circumstances, I would love it. But like, it's a whole pandemic out here. What are you guys talking about?
Yeah, she ain't playing.
Yeah. LeBron James, a few people have been very against this. I am too. Why are we doing an All-Star game? You're taking people that are supposed to be isolated and travel is already difficult to manage, and then you're going to throw them all together in the same place for a weekend? And then what? Like, for what? The NFL didn't have a Pro Bowl, don't have an All-Star game. NBA, I know it's a big weekend for y'all, but it's a whole pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, they're already in a situation where they have to play to do their job and risk getting infected. Like, why do an exhibition game? Don't do any more games than necessary.
Exactly. And don't mix people from different cities like in the same bowl for a weekend and that's it. Like, you can't even contact trace. You guys doing? So we'll see. But hopefully they'll figure out something where we can appreciate the All-Stars, just get a lineup or something and, whatever. And finally, Sham, you only want to watch 1%. Out of your 1% of the NBA, who you like for early MVP candidates? It's been talked about this last week.
Jokic.
Yeah. Jokic has been good. My Wizards played him the other night, and man, seeing him up close, he can do a lot, man. He really can.
That fool got a triple-double in like 19 minutes.
Yes. Sam, I thought we were going to get run out the gym. I'm amazed we won that game. He had forget triple-double. That man had 15 points in the first 7 minutes of the game. And the announcers and everything, I was about to turn the game off.
Your man's out triple-double Bron last week.
Correct.
In the game, they played the Lakers.
And when you see him move, it's like he knows. He's like, I'm not fast, but I don't need to be. I have moves. And he was like, yo, he does everything in slow motion, but it's like the jumper's just wet. It's going to go down. And when he spin moves and fakes, it's all slow motion. I like that candidate. I would probably go with LeBron at the moment, but as a close second, maybe Jokic. Yeah. Look, Harden was a complete clown at the beginning of the year, but Brooklyn is doing very well right now, and he's playing very well for them. Single-handedly led that comeback. A couple of disappointments, Sham. He's playing right now. I'm a little disappointed in Kawhi. and the Wizards. I mean, Wizards, Clippers.
Is Kawhi even playing?
Yeah, he's playing right now.
Is he? I thought they said he was going to be out for.
I think he has been out, but he's definitely on the court right now. I just saw. And then, I mean, they're winning, but they're playing Utah. It's a good game. And Giannis, what is going on? I'm not saying with him personally. What is going on with the Bucks? They've lost like 4 straight. I know you've only won. They've lost like 4 straight games. And they're not as good
badly too.
Yeah. They're not as good as they need to be. And it's not acceptable. Giannis just got paid. And I'm not trying to make this about the money. He deserved it. But the point being, Giannis, man, like this, no. You need to be dominating the East, or at minimum, looking at Brooklyn like y'all could get 10 people out there. Like, I'm the man out here. You're not doing it. So I'm a little disappointed there. Are you excited for the second half of the season? You gonna watch 2%?
I don't know. I usually start to get involved on All-Star break, and that's probably not going to happen. Well, yeah. I hope it doesn't, just for the safety of people. And if they do it, we don't need, just do it in an empty gym. Just do a bubble weekend, I think, if you do it, and just make it cool for TV. But, usually I do. I probably will. But, we've discussed this. I've been so disgusted with the NBA this year. Like,
it's hard, man.
And it's crazy because, we were talking about this earlier too. And also with college basketball, we're not going to get into college basketball or anything like that right now. But just the fact, like, basketball and Olympic sports, specifically track and field, are my 2 favorite sports because I played basketball and I also was a track and field athlete. So these are sports that are very, personal to me. And it upsets me that I just can't enjoy them like I used to. Not track and field so much, but basketball. Like, before, I grew up loving the NBA, and then I transitioned more into a college basketball. And college basketball is definitely my favorite sport. But the love for each of those sports has just gone. Like, I'm dry on it right now. Like, I still watch probably more college basketball than I do NBA. But even that is just like, what are we doing out here? Like, I was telling you how Mike Wilbon had said something like that too last week on PTI. Yep. He basically just, everything that I felt, he just put into words. Like, you just don't even know what's going on. All the blue buds are terrible. You don't know who's playing or when they're playing. Seasons are being canceled. And I'm not blaming COVID as much for my distaste for basketball. Like, that's just an unfortunate circumstance that we all have to live with. But it just doesn't have the same spark and fire, because I just think that, the teams are just bad and just everything.
Yeah, I think COVID laid these problems bare, to be more accurate. You know what I mean? Like, the problems were there. And then with COVID, it's just like everything else. You have these problems that you knew were problems, but then, man, when it gets exposed, it gets really exposed. And you're like, man, this is bad.
And then, like, Duke announced earlier this week that Jaden Johnson just decided to up and not play the rest of the season to prep for the NBA draft. Like, this what we doing?
Yeah. The article I read said that he did the same thing in high school. Like, he started getting into it because apparently, I didn't know this, he'd been getting into it with the coaches at Duke. And, so there was conflict there. And then his minutes have been reduced and stuff. In high school, is the same thing. He got into it, and then he had some kind of injury at like the end of his junior year. And he should have been back for his senior year. And then instead, he like transferred to another school and did it there.
No, he can't respect authority.
Yeah, he has problems.
I see.
Yeah. So.
Oh, well.
Yeah, too bad. So,
good luck to you.
Yeah, so tournament time, that's probably going to be a little bit of a bittersweet time for you as well, I guess, because they're going to do it. But what are we watching, right?
Right, what are we watching?
It's like, what are we watching? And it's a shame because we haven't had one in 2 years at that point. So it's like, you bring it back and this is what we getting? Okay.
Yeah. To quote the great Brian Arakpo, come on, man. What we even doing out there, man?
It's a shame Arakpo would go be doing more for that. I remember when he first came out, he's a good player. Anyway,
he got a cupcake business down in
he sure
Texas
does.
now.
He's balling. Yeah, commercials and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Listen, I love this episode. I'm not sure if this is 95, 96, because we got to see what we're going to do about our numbers. But Sham, I was thinking about 96. Now, we always have a debate about which year is the best year for rap, right? So we should have said 94, give the title of that for you. 96 has always been mine. And then I just dawned on me this week, I forget the exact date, but I know it was the second week of February, is when that big day in hip hop, when All Eyes and Fuji's The Score dropped on the same damn day. I want to say it was February the 12th.
Yes, so they did. And I remember we mentioned this in one of our earlier episodes.
Probably episode 5, I think, when we were talking about hip hop. You asked
me if I knew what album came out, and I was right on the nose with it.
You were like, of course I do.
No Google.
Yeah. And they dropped on the same day. And I want to say it was February 12th, 96. So we're coming up on the, coming up past the 25th
February
anniversary. 13th. Okay. I was day off. 96. 25 years ago. Man, I remember exactly what I was doing when that happened. But anyway.
But it's a little premature because this is episode 95.
That's what I was going to say. No, well, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. All right.
All right, well, let's wrap this up, folks. Thanks for enduring this episode with us. We had a lot of fun. As always, you can find us at www.stopplayingpodcast.com. Scroll all the way to the bottom, and you can check out all of the platforms we're available on, specifically Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. And remember, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please leave us a review. Also, check us out on our YouTube channel at the Stop Playing Podcast, on IG and Facebook at Stop Playing Podcast, and on Twitter at Stop_Playing Pod. And like we always say, no double dipping. Keep your chips on the plate. And we'll talk to you again real soon.
Stop playing.